Hi, I'm Nancy Clark.
And I'm Anne-Marie Wallace-Phillips.
We are the Hospice and Bereavement Coordinators with Theo in Oxford. And this is Morning Chats with Anne-Marie and Nancy. Cheers. Cheers.
Today we'd like to tackle a very quick subject on grief versus mourning. Many people use these two words to mean the same, but they actually have very different meanings. So grief is the highly personal, unique, and intense emotional response to a death. Grief is the container that holds your thoughts and feelings, whereas mourning is the public face of our grief, when we take the grief that we feel on the inside and express it outside. An example of mourning would be attending a funeral, or many years ago wearing black. And grief, as I said, it's highly personal. So all the emotions that a person feels because of a death is grief. An example like the sadness or the frustration is an example of grief.
And we also wanted to talk about stages of grief, that concept of moving from one stage to another as you move through your experience of grief. And this is a myth that we experience a lot with our bereavement and hospice clients. They come to us feeling as though they're not moving forward or progressing through the stages of grief. So I'm going to read for you Dr. Wolfeld's explanation of how stages of grief don't exist and grief is not a linear process. So stage-like thinking about both dying and grief has been appealing to many people. Somehow the stages of grief have helped people make sense of an experience that isn't as orderly and predictable as we would like to believe. The concept of stages was popularized in 1969 with the publication of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book, On Death and Dying. The very important distinction here is that Kubler-Ross never intended for people to literally interpret the 5 stages of dying. However, many people have done just that, not only with the process of dying, but with the processes of bereavement, grief, and mourning as well. One such consequence is when people around a grieving person, or that person themselves, believe that he or she should be in stage 2 or stage 4 by now. So we find that this is a really crippling concept, these stages, when we're encountering grieved individuals. Again, because they don't feel that they're moving forward or progressing, or they feel that they've jumped back because they're feeling angry again. And grief is not a linear experience.
No. I like to use the analogy when I sit down with individuals seeking support. And rather than, as we know, grief is not linear, I use the analogy of a ball of wool being thrown. So when you throw the ball of wool, it is all tangled, all messy, and it's not neat and tidy. That is what grief is. It is not linear, and it is not neat and tidy. Yeah.
And you also describe a roller coaster experience.
Absolutely, yes. Many times too, we can describe grief as a roller coaster. You know, you may be going along in your journey of grief, and you know everything is, and I'm going to use the word okay in quotation marks, and then all of a sudden, bam, you've got a drop. Yeah, and then it lengthens out.
So there are many other myths about grief that will come up and we'll discuss as we go through our series, our morning chats. And next week, we're actually going to tackle the mourner's 6 reconciliation needs. So tune in with us as we tackle the first need of a mourner. Thank you.
Thanks.